Mazel tov, friends! Cookies for you, will my fingers do? Turns out I identify as a zebra, don't that beat all? Consequently, this will be the last video as me and Space Giraffe are off to the African savannah. Yes, because that's where zebras live. And, well, this will probably be the last video, because honestly, I'm going to get eaten by a hippopotamus, or a lion, or the African land squid, or some other horrible monstrosity. But you know what? At least I'll die with paws! I know zebras don't have paws. Shut up. Enough of this merriment, though. Yes, you see. Had a hell of a dream last night, yes. There we go, that's a little better. I just wanted it green for the savannah effect, you see. Now we can go back to the normal colours. And anyways, what was I talking about? Oh yes, I had a doozy of a dream last night. Between me, you, and the Tricks Rabbit was one hell of a doozy. Turns out I was the Prime Minister of Australia. They had no idea how I won, but they sent a plane over, picked me up, and they were like, hey bitch, you won. I guess I was a joke ballot, who knew? So we get to Australia and we're in a bit of economic turmoil, and I'm like, well, I'll just box a kangaroo. That'll raise some money. And the kangaroo kicked my ass. And in making good with all the people who bet on the kangaroo, well, I bankrupted the country now, didn't I? So they put me on a ship and they exiled me to the island of Tasmania. Whereupon I was met by a Tasmanian devil, wasn't I? For those of you who have never seen a Tasmanian devil, well, they look kind of like a bear fucked a rat. You're like, wow, that's a really big rat. No, it's a really small bear. And this Tasmanian devil came up to me and it reached down my throat. And it began pulling out every animal I had ever eaten. It pulled out chickens, cows, aardvarks, pigs. Pulled a human out at one point. I was like, what the dickens, Charles? Luckily, the language Tasmanian Devil speaks is exactly the same as English. So I understood his response. And his response was, remember that weekend you spent out on Sea Spring? Did you think those hippies fed you? At which point I woke up. It was an interesting dream. Now I knew I didn't do any Pastafarian preaching this weekend because I had a rather bloody miserable fucking weekend. I have to move. You know, every time life seems to work out, God's got to whip a rock at my face. You know what I mean? He's like, ah, good for you. You finally figured out what to do so that you don't want to fucking kill yourself anymore. Here's somebody to rape you. Oh, good for you, you got over your rape. That's really great. Now we're going to send you to an area where everybody wants you fucking dead. Oh, you've worked out a lovely agreement where as long as you don't wear heels, people don't beat the fuck out of you. Well, here's another rape, bitch. This is the only place I have ever been taken at word. I have yet to meet any of the girls who don't understand what the fuck's going on. They're the only people whom I have met in the last year who understand what the fuck's going on. They were taken away from me, replaced by methods. It's one thing to have to climb over somebody in your hallway to get to work. It's another thing to be climbing over a person who then proceeds to lip you off and chase you down for 3 blocks because they want to kick your ass. Get to the point too late, I'm not safe in my own home, so if anybody has a room for rent, you know, hit a bitch up, yeah? Anyways, since I didn't get any Pastafarianism in on the weekend, I decided I would make good this morning by reading you the 8, I'd really rather you didn't. Also known as the Holy Condiments. Holy Condiment 1. I'd really rather you didn't act like a sanctimonious, holier-than-thou ass when describing my noodly goodness. If some people don't believe in me, that's okay. Really, I'm not that vain. Besides, this isn't about them, so don't change the subject. Condiment 2. I'd really rather you didn't use my existence as a means to oppress, subjugate, punish, eviscerate, and/or, just be mean to others. I don't require sacrifices, and purity is for drinking water, not people. I'd really rather you didn't judge people for the way they look, or how they dress, or the way they talk, or just play nice, okay? Oh, and get this through your thick heads. Woman equals person. Man equals person. Samey, samey. One is not better than the other. Unless we're talking about fashion, and I'm sorry, but I gave that to the women and some guys who know the difference between teal and fuchsia. Condiment 4. I'd really rather you didn't indulge in conduct that offends yourself or your willing consenting partner of legal age and mental maturity. As for anyone who might object, I think the expression is go fuck yourself. Unless they find that offensive, in which case they can turn off the TV for once and go for a walk. This is a vocal isolated track of Grace Slick doing White Rabbit. It's probably the scariest fucking song I've ever heard. Condiment 5. I'd really rather you didn't challenge the bigoted, misogynistic, hateful ideas of others on an empty stomach. Eat some pasta. Then go after the bitches. 6. I'd really rather you didn't build multi-million-dollar churches, temples, mosques, shrines, etc. to my noodly goodness when the money could be better spent ending poverty, curing disease, living in peace, loving with passion, and lowering the cost of iPhones. I might be a complex carbohydrate, omniscient being, but I enjoy the simple things in life. And I ought to know. I created them. Condiment 7. I'd really rather you didn't go around telling people I talked to you. You're not that interesting. Get over yourself. And I told you to love your fellow man. Can't you take the hint? Lastly, the 8th condiment. I'd really rather you didn't do unto others as you would have them do unto you if you are into stuff that uses a lot of leather and lubricants. If the other person is into it, however, pursuant to I'd really rather you didn't number 4, then have at it, take pictures, and for the love of Mike, wear a condom. Honestly, it's a piece of rubber. If I didn't want it to feel good when you did it, I would have added spikes or something. Here endeth the 8 I'd really rather you didn't, also known as the Holy Condiments. Space Giraffe! Will my fingers do cookies for you? Morning.